What's up? It's the Coaster Craze, and today I'm doing a new coaster analysis for Dr. Diabolical's Cliffhanger coming to Six Flags Fiesta Texas in San Antonio, Texas in 2022. So this is pretty exciting to finally have a new coaster analysis because it feels like it's been forever since a big new coaster in the US was announced. This is big news, particularly because this is Six Flags' first time building a new B&M ground-up coaster in what'll be 10 years since X-Flight at Six Flags Great America in 2012. And so Six Flags hasn't been buying them because B&Ms are traditionally very expensive, and Six Flags has been pretty much all of their coasters have been under the $15 million range, and that just doesn't operate with B&M. I'm not sure on the price tag for Dr. Diabolical's Cliffhanger, but B&M dive coasters can be pretty steep just because of their size, even though the track length isn't particularly long. Plus, the theming elements are definitely going to contribute in price. And before I get into the layout, I just wanted to briefly touch upon the name, the theme. And I really love that, much like what Six Flags Fiesta Texas often does with their coasters, they are very much the theme park of the Six Flags chain, in that they have storylines for lots of their rides, and this one is no exception, maybe even their best. It's fitting in the Crack Axle Canyon Steampunk District area, just like their new attraction for 2021. And I think it is going to be just a really excellent fit for the park. It looks beautiful with all the landscaping. It's great that they were able to fit this in. And I think it's a really cool story, like I said before, where it's basically this doctor who she's harnessing the adrenaline, the screams of all the riders to be used for like her evil creatures that she's making. It just has this whole great vibe to it, and it looks like the queue has gonna have this like big queue house to it, where after going through a lot of the cattle pins, which by the way, if the line is that long, that looks brutal. There's no shade in the concept art at least, and just back and forth the zigzags. So hopefully they put up a shade structure and some theming there. But after that, you go through, we don't know what's going to look like, but the exterior of the building looks kind of cool, and it's probably going to be very well themed inside, I imagine, at least based on Six Flags Fiesta Texas's previous attractions. And it's probably going to explain the storyline for the whole ride, and then you're going to go through to the end of the queue, where you have a pretty, like, not very themed, but very well designed station with a really cool architectural vibe to it, very steampunky. And then there's no on-ride theming really from the looks of it, but the color scheme is great, and especially if the supports are actually that kind of speckled orangish color like they are in the concept art, that'll be very unique, because usually you just see supports as like one flat solid color, so that'll be awesome. So that's the ride's presentation. Now on to the actual ride itself, and first I just want to talk about the trains and restraints. So I talked about the line before, hopefully it's not too long, and I really don't think it should be, because this will be one of the best capacity rides at Six Flags Fiesta Texas. It can run 3 trains, each with 21 riders. So often on busy days, they will be running that, but on the less busy days, they'll probably only be running 2. Hopefully they're never running 1, but that is still really great. That is a lot of people per hour. And the interesting thing here is, of course, that because it's 21 riders, it's 3 rows of 7 across, which we've never seen before on a B&M dive coaster. Usually the smaller ones are 6 across, and then the really large ones are 10, sometimes 8 across. So this will be very unique. And I think, especially if the operations are quick, there won't be too much stacking. They'll be moving, and it'll be great. And, you know, that's what they have to take advantage of when there is a massive mid-course brake run, which I'll talk about in a second in terms of actual ride layout. But first, of course, I gotta mention those vest restraints. I have never ridden a B&M dive with the vest restraints. I've only ridden Griffin and Shikra, and it is very unfortunate. From what I've heard, these vest restraints really restrict the airtime, that hang time you feel over the drop, especially because there's what's billed as an extreme airtime hill on this ride. Even if the airtime is insane RMC ejector, those restraints do not look like they'll be so good for getting airtime, which is very unfortunate, but at least they're not so uncomfortable from the looks of things. Anyway, so you go up your 150-foot tall lift hill, you're going to make a full 180-degree turn, you're going to go down to drop, and this is 95 degrees. There's no full drop height. I imagine it's close to 150, and that is really awesome that it is beyond vertical. B&M has never built a beyond vertical drop before, so that's going to be very unique on a dive coaster. Yes, hang time is even steeper, and that is pretty much a dive coaster, but this one actually hangs on the actual drop vertical before dropping, so that's going to be a bit of a different sensation, I imagine, and also just massive. 150 feet is pretty big for a beyond vertical drop, so I'm super stoked to see how that sensation is. Hopefully the vest restraints don't impact it so much. Then after hitting your max speed of 60 miles per hour, which is pretty solid, you go into your first typical dive coaster element, the Immelmann. These are usually super smooth, graceful, and fun, and I imagine this coaster in general is going to be very smooth and graceful, even though there do seem like there will be some tight elements towards the end. We'll have to wait and see. And then it goes into an element that's a little bit different than most dive coasters, which is kind of cool. It's this 270-degree roll element. It kind of looks like a 0G roll, followed by a helix into the mid-course. And this is my big problem with dive coasters in general, is they're already short rides. This one's only 2,500 feet of track about, and they just kill the pacing right halfway through by just having that hard mid-course brake hit. And yes, it is great that it allows for 3 trains running, but it really slows the train down and just kind of separates the ride into 2 halves, but both halves are very short and feel very incomplete. So it's just unfortunate that they can't make it just fly through that. Instead, they always have to have the mid-course running pretty hard. And yes, it does allow for a little bit more suspense before the second almost vertical drop, that 75-foot drop. And those are usually pretty fun, but they're not so spectacular when you have that second drop, because it's nothing compared to that first big dive coaster drop. So that's too bad, but that's what you expect with dive coasters. Then you go out of that into what's a bit of a different element. It looks like a very heavily banked turn, probably overbanked, and then it goes into an airtime hill, and it's labeled as extreme. We'll see how good the ejector is, or the floater is, I guess. It'll probably be floater, but it does look like it'll be taking at some pretty good speed, and the profiling of it makes it look like it'll be relatively intense, followed by a pretty high speed low to the ground helix that looks fun, but I imagine there won't be so much speed in the second half anyway because of those hard mid-course brakes, unfortunately. Then you pop up into the station, and overall it's a really short ride, only 2 inversions, but it's a really great fit for the park. It's going to be the park's first beyond vertical drop, the third B&M, but after getting some very intense coasters like Wonder Woman Golden Lasso Coaster, Iron Rattler, and to a lesser extent Batman the Ride, this will be just a more traditional coaster. Yes, it has the dive coaster element, which is very scary, at least for the GP, but it'll appeal to such a wide demographic, and I think that's a great thing with these B&M dive coasters, because yes, they can be looked at as crappy investments, at least from the enthusiast standpoint, like, oh my gosh, you could get a coaster twice as good for half the price, because these dive coasters, they are pretty steep. But you got to remember, it's going to bring in a lot of cash, and with all the theming and stuff too, it's going to be a whole experience. And I think it'll overall just be a great fit for the park. It's going to look fantastic. It's going to be just an icon, I think, of the park. And it's very exciting to see Six Flags working with B&M again, just for the future, because Fiesta Texas is a testing ground for Six Flags. And if there's anything we've seen before, it's that often their tests prove successful, and we see more free spins added. We see more RMC conversions with inversions added. We see more Raptors added. And so I think that it's going to continue with the B&M. So hopefully there'll be other better models that B&M's added besides just the dive coaster, because I do think that's B&M's worst model. But nevertheless, it's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be very big, one of the largest coasters in the park, one of the fastest coasters in the park. And overall, I'm very excited. It'll be the park's 11th coaster. And yes, I do wish it was going to a different park, because even though it's a great fit at Fiesta Texas, and they will theme it better than any other Six Flags park, it seems like they're getting all of Six Flags' best investments nowadays, which is really unfortunate that Six Flags isn't spreading the love a little bit more, especially when 2022, most likely not all the Six Flags parks are going to be getting new rides. But nevertheless, this is really great. I'm super happy for Fiesta Texas. I can't wait to finally visit sometime, hopefully soon. I hope you enjoy this analysis. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe for a ton more coaster content coming soon to the Coaster Craze. And I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.